Alvin Kamara posted his best ever fantasy game, going off on Sunday night.
Alvin Kamara, oh so good. 6 rushing attempts for 58 yards, along with 13 receptions for 139 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. In case anyone forgot, Alvin Kamara is a running back, but he went out and put up wide receiver 1-like numbers. His most impressive play from the game came from a 52-yard touchdown in which he broke 4 tackles after getting the ball near the line of scrimmage. Look at him go. It's just so easy for him. Alvin Kamara is on par to be a top 5 fantasy player this season, so kudos to you if you have him in your lineup.
Yeah, congratulations to every Drew Brees manager who had him on that play. And congratulations to anybody who has Russell Wilson this season, who is doing something unprecedented. No quarterback in NFL history has had 30-plus fantasy points in weeks 1, 2, and 3. I'll spit it out. Don't worry. He has so many touchdown passes this season. He's on pace for 75, which, of course, he's going to hit. And listen, I'll give a little humble brag to myself because on Friday, I told you to start. I know. I told you to start Russell Wilson. Congratulations. He's the best quarterback in the game. But I had in my DK segment, make sure that you take him, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett right here, who had 3 touchdowns. He also didn't fumble one through the end zone. So if you're sitting there and you have any one of these players for the Seahawks offense, expect this to continue. And if you're looking to make a trade for somebody, it's probably not going to be real easy because nobody wants to let go of any of their Seahawks players. But these are going to be guys who are going to be fantasy relevant throughout the entire season.
Well, speaking of fantasy relevant, it's hard generally to pinpoint a Patriots running back that can be on a week-to-week basis, but Rex Burkhead certainly was on Sunday. Let me take this moment to sort of humble brag about the fact that I told you, hashtag Rex in effect over the weekend. 13 touches, 98 total yards, 3 touchdowns, including 2 rushing scores. He's actually tied or led the New England running backs in snaps in every game. Now, the issue is James White's going to be back soon. Damian Harris is eligible to come off of injured reserve. J.J. Taylor has played well. Sony Michel had a big game. So Bellatrix could really come back to the New England backfield. So be aware of that. Oh, by the way, start your running backs against the Raiders. That's the other lesson we learned.
Lesson learned to start your running backs against the Raiders. Another lesson is Josh Allen is really good at football. 5 total touchdowns, 1 of those being a rushing touchdown, as well as throwing for 311 passing yards. Now, there's always been some concern around Josh Allen and his deep ball ability after last season. However, Allen is completing 71% of his pass attempts, especially on deep throws, as he is 8 of 13 on passes that traveled at least 20 yards downfield. So pair that with QB design runs inside of the red zone, and you've got yourself a fantasy MVP contender.
Yeah, and we called that on Fantasy Bites, too, and everybody who tried to tell us that matchup was too tough. Where are you now, tough guys? Anyways, let's talk about Austin Eckler, who has been fantastic the last couple of weeks. He carried the ball 12 times in this game. I was going to say win, but of course it's the Chargers. It wasn't a win. He also had 11 targets, and this has been one of the biggest differences of having Justin Herbert as the quarterback. He is now targeting his running back out of the backfield. And Coach Anthony Lynn has said that he might go back to Tyrod at some point. So if you have Austin Eckler and you're worried about Tyrod returning or anything, his value is probably never going to be as high as it is right now. I don't know if you want to make a deal, try to fortify your lineup, but with Herbert in there, this is an RB1. Without him, we saw what it's like. Not quite as good.
Well, I know people were panicked over Austin Eckler. Hopefully they're starting to calm down. Hopefully they're also calming down about Derrick Henry. He got in the end zone twice on Sunday. You can exhale. You can relax. Everything's fine. The usage rates for Henry have not been an issue this year. He's getting 29 touches per game. That's fantastic. And here's the weird thing. He's on pace for a career-high 42 targets. I know 42 targets doesn't seem like a lot, but, when you're Derrick Henry and your career high was 24, 42 is great. So you're getting him involved in the passing game, which should only increase his value. Now that he has broken the seal on the touchdown barrier, I think he's going to be fine the rest of the way. You can relax.
All right, let's stick on this game, but instead go to the other side of the ball for the Vikings. Justin Jefferson, the rookie wide receiver, he flexed his muscles a little bit. 7 receptions for 175 yards and a score. Now, this past Sunday's performance has solidified, for me at least, that Justin Jefferson is a flex wide receiver from here on out. So if you're watching this, go to the waiver wire right this second and go grab him if you need the help. With the absence of Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen has stepped up as the wide receiver 1 and Jefferson now as a wide receiver 2. So with Cousins thriving on stretching the field for deep passes, Justin Jefferson can continue to show why he was worth the first-round pick.
Well, Justin Jefferson will be pop. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I'm sorry, Marcus. Did I jump in on you? I didn't mean to do that. You go.
I was just going to tell you that, Justin Jefferson was a popular waiver pick last week. The Colts were as well. You know what? And they paid off. 26 points. They were the 16th highest week 3 scorer in fantasy football. And barring something spectacular by the Ravens tonight, the Colts will have allowed the fewest total yards through the first 3 weeks of the season. They also have a very favorable schedule over the next month or so. So if you were fortunate enough to grab them off the waiver wire, hold on to them because they could pay dividends. If they're still out there somehow in your league, go get them. Also, stream defenses against the Jets. That's the other part.
Yeah. If we could just make somehow Jets opponent a streamable defense, that you could just go ahead and draft them or just pick them up and you won't have to make the change every single week. We'll have more standouts in week 3 throughout the show, but we got to take our lumps too. It's time for hindsight's 2020. Marcus, the Cam Newton hype train hit a rough spot of track on Sunday.
Well, yeah, it just slowed down a little bit. Nothing to really worry about, at least hopefully not. It was the first game this season that he did not have a rushing touchdown. Part of it is that the Patriots just didn't need that much from him. They had the running game working. I talked about Rex Burkhead. Sony Michel had a big game as well. So they just didn't need Cam to go out and be spectacular. Now, if there is some reason to be concerned, the next 6 weeks include games against Kansas City, San Francisco, Buffalo, and Baltimore. So there are some tough defenses coming up, but I still think you should be confident starting Cam Newton most weeks.
Marcus, another guy you should be confident about, even though he didn't have that great of a performance this week, is Josh Jacobs. Now, Bill Belichick and that Patriots defense completely stuffed Jacobs in their loss on Sundays. He had 16 rushing attempts for 71 yards, averaging just 4 yards a carry. That's not really like Josh Jacobs. Think back to that week 1 performance, 3 touchdowns. But this performance, though disappointing, it should not worry fantasy managers about Jacobs' performance or ability, but instead it's more so just a kudos to the Patriots defense. The Raiders go on to take the Bills next Sunday, who have averaged 16 fantasy points against opposing running backs, so just cross your fingers for a bounce back.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about Josh Jacobs. Games like that happen, but there is a growing concern with Kenyon Drake, and I know a lot of people put faith in him, drafting him at the end of the first round, or at the very least, the beginning of the second. And even though he hasn't come out and performed like we'd like him to, as you see, less than 10 fantasy points in a pretty good matchup against the Detroit Lions, the one thing that we have to be encouraged by is that he played 70% of the snaps. He's been holding off Chase Edmonds, so that's good. He was targeted 5 times, has 5 receptions, so we still like the usage. The point production will come.
If you were worried about Kenyon Drake, then you're going to be really worried about Joe Mixon because he has struggled through the first few weeks of the season. No touchdowns at all. The hard part is that he's getting nearly 20 touches per game, so that usage rate makes him hard to drop. But because of his production, it's hard to start him every week, and it's hard to trade him because nobody's going to want to give you anything of real value back in return. So right now, you're sort of just holding on to Joe Mixon, hoping that things get better in the very near future.